the book Living in Two Worlds, Addressing Humanity's Greatest Challenge, by Ian Mccallum and Ian Michler, is the result of a 4-month, 5,000-kilometer, non-motorized journey of walking, kayaking and cycling. Well, both authors, who are well known in African conservation, ecotourism and environmental spheres, they share their intimate story in this well-crafted read. And for more on this offering, let's now have a chat with one of its co-authors, Ian Michler. He joins us now via Zoom. Ian, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Now, tell us more about this book and why you and Ian Mccallum decided to put it together.
Well, back in the 1990s, early 2000s, we were working together up in the Okavango Delta, and we decided that there were so many challenges facing the planet. A lot of them were obvious to us working in Africa in the environmental and conservation sphere, but there were all these socioeconomic challenges as well around the world, which were impacting Africa and feeding into the environmental and conservation crises we were facing. And we decided we'd like to do something more academic about this, to try and explain, these forces at play and how they were impacting not only the world, but also, of course, Africa and the region we were working in. And so we decided that what we would do is go out into the wild and interface with communities, with researchers, with scientists, to find out more. And in the book, we explain it as basically going to the coalface.
Yeah.
And so we thought the most symbolic way of doing this would be to follow the ancient migratory paths of elephants. Because as my co-author Ian Mccallum always says, if we can't take care of something as obvious and as large as an elephant, then what chances do all the small creatures and the microscopic organisms have? And so in a way, in a symbolic way, but also in a real way, we've moved from west coast to east coast, following the paths, the migratory paths of the elephants through all these wild areas, and just collected all this information and had all these experiences, which were then assisted us in putting the book together.
Yeah. Now, speak to us about what really sparked the urge to embark on this 4-month journey through the 6 countries across Southern Africa.
Well, as I say, it was happening before our eyes. Habitat was being lost. Populations of wild animals were being lost. We were witnessing poaching pressures. We were witnessing the ongoing impoverishment of rural communities living around these protected areas. We were witnessing overutilization of ecotourism assets. And so it was this whole mishmash of environmental as well as socioeconomic challenges that were seeming to come together. And of course, this all plays out against the background of climate change, population growth, and all of these issues are completely related and connected. And so if you're in a small community in the deserts of Namibia, for example, and you're experiencing challenges with communities trying to survive and loss of animals through poaching, you extrapolate that out. It's not just a small microcosm of what's going on in Namibia. It actually plays out at a global level as well. And so, that was the main challenge. And hopefully we've been able to relay that in the book.
Right, right. Now, Ian, tell us more about how the insights that emerged from this epic journey formed questions, that demand to be answered by all human beings.
I think the journey was in 2012, and the book only came out towards the end of last year. So it's taken us quite a while. But I think what happened in between was that we got all this, the information, and all this insight. And then I think it was only after the journey that we realized how global the issues are. And so I, for example, had to go back to university. I ended up going back to Stellenbosch University to the Sustainability Institute because I kind of understood that I needed to get a much better grasp of the global pressures that are at play in Africa and in these areas that we were concerned about. And so it was only once I had spent time at the university to understand, this issue of sustainability at a global level that I was then able to truly reflect, what was happening in the environment. And Dr. Mccallum also, got involved in a range of other projects. But all of that was brought to bear, in our writing. And so, hopefully we're able to show the readers that it's not me or you or any particular nation or region, it's us, it's humanity that are involved in these issues. And as I say in the book, the three main drivers that are at play are obviously population, and then the current political and economic paradigms that run this world, and then the third one is denial, and it's denial in our own lives because no one wants to hear the bad news, but it's also strategic denial, at a political and academic level where we're able to deny that something is wrong because there's a strategic interest involved, whether it's protecting political power or an economic model or a business, empire. Fossil fuels is the great example of strategic denialism. We knew 40, 50 years ago already the impacts of the fossil fuel industry, but it was denied for 30, 40 years, which has delayed our transition to renewables, and now the world is in trouble.
Okay, in your quest, Ian, in your quest to understand sustainability and the global pressures that we are faced with, and you mentioned that you try to understand sustainability through the Sustainability Institute at the Stellenbosch University, and I see that this book also touches on some of the concerns that highlight the greatest ecological challenges of our time, yeah?
Yes, I think, ultimately, if you want to understand why everyone, irrespective of income level, social standing, your whatever it might be, where you live in the world, every one of us is faced with the same challenge. And that is we want to survive as individuals and we want our families to flourish.
Yes.
But we can't do that without clean air to breathe, clean drinking water, healthy topsoils, which provide all the foods we need to eat, carbon sequestration systems which provide us with the oxygen and all the rest of it. So those ecological cycles, they are vital. It doesn't matter whether you're poverty-stricken or number one on the wealthiest list of the world. You require the same factors to survive.
Indeed, indeed.
And so I think that ultimately is what we need to be able to link those ecological cycles that are now faltering through our own actions, fossil fuel use, overconsumption, waste disposal, and it's impacting on the environment a whole variety of levels. And it finds itself putting pressure on local communities in these far-flung places because they have no food, they have no work, they're being impacted by climate change. They're unable to do anything about it. The migration, the crises where people are moving from one part of the world to another to seek, a reasonable living. These are all
Ian, unfortunately,
interrelated.
we are out of time, unfortunately. But great conversation, great chat. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for the support.
Well, thank you. Well, that was our Sunday morning author, Ian Michler, and we've been in discussion with him about the book that he co-wrote with Ian Mccallum titled Living in Two Worlds.